you here today. And I know this isn't the first time you've been in the world of Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel and these characters before. So when you got the script, what intrigued you about getting back into this sort of this historical world and portraying Meyer Lansky as a character and as a human?
Well, really, there was a lot. It was begins with the screenplay and ends with the screenplay that Eitan, I almost said Rockefeller, Eitan Rockaway wrote.
Mm-hmm.
I almost said Rockefeller because when I got a call from my agent that this fella, Eitan Rockefeller, wants you for a movie, I heard the cash register. You go,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to clean up now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned that it was Eitan Rockaway.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a Rockaway instead of a Rockefeller.
Yes, sir.
My price went down. But I'm glad it happened that way. It begins with his screenplay, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a family of immigrants to America. Came through Ellis Island the same way Meyer Lansky did, and his family from Europe. And the life that Meyer led in Europe, their shtetl, that's what they called it, was constantly being invaded by Russian Cossacks, I understand. I believe he witnessed his uncle's hand being chopped off by a Cossack during one invasion of theirs. And the fact that he landed on American shores with his family poor and without an education. Well, my family landed on the shores of America the same way. And he had to make a living,
Mm-hmm.
his father, mother, himself. And without the opportunities, same as things going on today in America regarding immigration. Immigrants come to our country and around the world and trying to make a living, trying to get an education. And without the second thing I mentioned, the education, it's difficult to make a living.
Absolutely.
And Maya was living on the Lower East Side where my family first came. And my uncle had a business there. And a lot of people, sold schmatters and knishes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so Maya didn't have an education. He was this bright young man. And when he was a teenager, met Luciano, lucky Luciano. And he got involved in crime to make a living. But with his mind, he was had such a mind for organization and imagination to create with. And he was part of forming this called it great in terms of its size and money, business, the mob.
Mm-hmm.
And in my generation, growing up in the lower underclass, you might say, I saw a lot of people I knew who couldn't get educations, didn't know the real need for it, they surmised the need for it, but didn't understand that to get out of poverty they came with, they would need an education. A lot got educations here, but many didn't. And they wound up in crime.
Yeah.
Maya had an education, what he could have done with that imagination, who the heck knows?
Right.
But nevertheless, he wound up in the criminal world. But he was also a young man. He was also a father. Grew up to care for a family and to raise a son that was challenged and bedridden his entire life until his death, and to provide for them. And you know what that leads to, what poverty can lead to. And Maya got caught up in that. And created thousands of jobs for people. Mm-hmm. And he questioned who was the real underworld. Was it the big corporations in a way, they considered themselves, Meyer and his people, perhaps to be the overworld, which is a line Eitan Rockaway wrote in the movie.
Yeah.
And for me, that was an interesting way to look at things. Who are the criminals today?
Yes.
Who are the ones stopping people from climbing up and climbing up that ladder and to use their talents and their imagination? There's a lot of people against the immigrants coming to America today, the way they were back then. Mm-hmm. So all these reasons I had for wanting to explore Lansky and tell his story about the choices you have in life, the opportunities you have and do not have, and where they might lead you, and to beware, because you might have to work harder than you thought for that life of imagination and creativity that you want, and not to wind up in the gutter and in a life of crime.
Yeah, I beautifully said. I mean, yeah, and it comes out within the film, and so I wanted to ask you, with this film and your performance, obviously there's been other portrayals of Meyer Lansky. You when you were in Bugsy, which you were nominated for your Oscar for, Ben Kingsley played the part, and I just was curious, did you research some of these other roles? Did you watch some of these other films and try to set your character apart from others that have done it before?
Well, I was in Bugsy,
Yes.
and strangely enough, when someone asked me the question you asked me, I said, I've never seen anyone else play Maya. And then I realized I did a car scene in Bugsy with,
Yeah, with
an actor, Ben Kingsley, playing Maya. So, but that was the only performance of Maya that I've ever seen.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, your question now it was.
But no, what since there are there are other actors that have portrayed this. Did you
Well, I
research any
also
of this
played.
others as well and try to separate your performance from theirs?
Well, every man's different.
Yeah.
We're all different and approach things differently. And actors playing the same character also have their own bent, their
Mhm.
own their own imagination as to what was the most important characteristics of this character, and they're liable to focus on that.
Mhm.
I focused on what you saw.
Mhm.
This man who, at one part in the movie, well, he had this great imagination, formed this, if you will, great corporation, the underworld.
Mhm.
Um, uh, the a great part of the mafia for a young Jewish man, um, and created thousands of jobs for people, and was also a criminal at the same time.
Mhm.
Uh, Also was a person who tried to help Israel when they were in trouble and needed money for arms to
Mhm.
fight for their freedom.
Mhm.
And all these great aspirations are present in the screenplay that Eitan Rockaway wrote.
Mhm.
And the difficulty to achieve them and the failures involved along the way, and the the lives created along the way, differ so greatly one from the other. The ones who had opportunity and those who didn't, led down one street, the others down another street.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
gangster is a genre film. I don't do them thinking of gangster. I think of, how does this fellow make a living? How does he regard his friends and his family and his children?
Mhm.
And Eitan Rockaway did a masterful job of it. His father, in fact, interviewed Meyer Lansky in Israel
Wow.
a long time ago.
Mhm.
And that's how Eitan got introduced to Maya's life, rather,
And how he got the itch to write this
and the
screenplay.
inspiration to do the film and tell the
Yeah.
story.
Well, speaking of, of sort of crafting the character and everything, you're not the only one playing Meyer Lansky in the film. John Magaro is playing the younger version
Right,
of
right,
him as well. And so
right.
you guys are presenting the full life of this man. And so I'm curious as to, did you have any conversations with John about having sort of a through line or connective tissue between the two performances so that you could have the full circle of this man's life presented on screen?
Other than him knowing and seeing what I've done, no. I wanted to leave him to his imagination and own creativity. We both read the same script, you know, and he was free to do it as he saw it. In fact, I played Ben Siegel also in a movie a long time ago with Diane Cannon. And we did not talk about Ben. I call him Ben because he did not like to be called Bugsy.
No, he did not. Yeah.
And just one little funny thing. I was getting a haircut in Beverly Hills when I did the Virginia Hill Story, in which I played Ben. And I was getting a manicure. And the barber, it was a men's shop, then above a clothing store in Beverly Hills, and asked, would I like to meet Ben Siegel's attorney? I said, sure. And he said, he's sitting in the chair next to you. I said, absolutely. And they turned me toward him. He was on my right side. And I looked at him, he looked at me, and I said, hello. He said, hello. And they said to him, Harvey Keitel is going to be playing Ben in this movie. And he looked at me and he said, you're not as good looking as Ben Siegel was. And that was the end of that conversation.
There you go.
He wouldn't talk to me any more than that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You never know who you're going to sit next to at one of these things, right?
And I admired his loyalty to Ben. He didn't want to say anything about him.
No, for sure. Well, I think you did a great job in that, and like I said, you did a great job in this. And you know, throughout the film, we have these extended periods of time where Lansky is speaking to David Stone, the sort of reporter he's asked to write about his life, and when we learn things, you know, that's how the sort of push to learn more and more about this man throughout the film. Yeah. And so my question to you would be, if we were to have someone sit down with you, you know, someone who was writing a book or whatnot, and you were saying all the secrets of your career, your life, and everything, is there something that we might learn about you that we don't know? Yes,
a lot. But how long do you intend to live?
Exactly. Right. No, it was fascinating to see that, because I you know, you're at, you know, this point of your career, and it is almost just like this man is giving him the full biography and the full breadth of full autonomy of this person's life.
Well, you know, it's really a good question, yes, because I look to do that to fulfill this life of mine that you're talking about. I'm interested in, and all the work I do. I look for screenplays where I can do and answer questions I have about my own existence and how I have handled it, where I've succeeded, where I've failed, where I've been lucky. Talk about luck, I've had a lot of luck. You know the great talents I've worked with, great directors, writers, actors, and there's no secret I can tell you that I want you to know.
That's true. You kind of, you know, some secrets are best kept a secret.
I'm trying to think of one, except no,
I
don't know. I don't have any secrets except that to follow again the road sort of a young immigrant coming to America without an education. I was thrown out of high school, kicked out, joined the Marines at a young age of 17, got out, and then was introduced to the theater by a very handsome young Greek friend of mine I worked with. We went up to see about acting lessons. He invited me. He left and I stayed. And the rest is a long story about how lucky I was to stay there and meet this wonderful teacher I met. And I'll tell you this one little story, okay, that got me embedded in it after I agreed to stay. My friend had left. And the teacher says to me, his name was Anthony Menino. He's long departed, I suppose. Because I wanted to see him to thank him, but not here. Anyway, there was a coat hanger there with many hangers on it. I don't know, a lot, like 30 or so. And he says to me, okay, go over there. You see that coat hanger? Tell me how many hangers are on there. I looked at him and I'm thinking, quietly, is he kidding me? Is this a fucking joke? I go turn, I didn't know anything about acting. I never been to the theater. Except my mother took me to the Yiddish theater once when I was a child. And there were a lot of hangers there to count. So I turned around, I came back to his desk. He said, how many are there? He said, maybe 25. He said, are you sure? Did you count them all? I said, no. He said, well, go back and count every one, because acting is doing things truthfully with the purpose. And that was my very first acting lesson, and it stuck with me all my life.
That's fantastic. No, that's fantastic. That's a great story. No, for sure. And I mean, you sort of have emptied the tank through so many wonderful performances over the years, and especially, Lansky is as you said, it's a gangster film, but it's more than that. And you've done a lot of signature parts in great gangster films in the genre over the years, made your imprint on this, as well as other actors, that you've worked with over the years. And so
I don't consider them gangster films.
Oh, I understand that. No, I know, but you've played a lot of these characters, and so over time and being in these types of films, what is something that you've learned about each character, or not even just about each character, but about maybe the type of character? I mean, some people would consider it, gangster film. Someone would consider them crime. Someone would consider them even true life stories.
You're right. They are gangster films of a genre, yes.
Yeah.
But I consider what are his hardships? What are his heartaches?
Mm-hmm.
Who's his mother, his father, his brother, his sister? Who are his children? What does he want out of his life? Mm-hmm. Is he happy? Is he miserable? He's frightened. Mm-hmm. Well, I've experienced all those things. Mm-hmm. And I look to explore them in my life. I still do, by the way.
Yeah.
To see how I can make a living, make a life would be a better expression of all these experiences.
Yeah. With projects
by the way, I just thought today is the Marine Corps birthday.
Yes, it is.
And so any Marines watching this, happy birthday, Marines.
There you go. Happy birthday, everybody. I have another question with that, and that is that with Lansky, I almost feel like it's also a little bit ties into a film you did a couple of years ago with Mr. Scorsese, and that is The Irishman. These more reflective, meditative looks on figures within crime, within this genre. Is this something, because you've played so many guys in this sandbox, are you looking for more of those meditative sort of look back and sort of reflective pieces going forward to sort of, get the juices? Or are you looking for more of like other, sort of parts like you've had in the past? Or what's the overall look in terms of Harvey Keitel picking a project like this in the future?
My past is always examining my childhood, mm-hmm. my adolescence, my adulthood, mm-hmm. The pool room I hung out in, the pigeons I robbed from other people's coops, my marine life, and my life after that. It's always an examination of these experiences and the life I've been blessed with, and given a challenge to survive.
Yeah, and I mean these two. Yeah,
Lansky went to crime. Yeah. I have not.
Yeah. Well, I know. Yeah.
Time is it?
Yeah. Right. No, but I found them to be really interesting because it is about every one of those characters in The Irishman, and in your character in this one too. I feel like they're reflecting back on. I mean, he's literally sitting at a table and he's talking about the points in his life and the good and the bad. There's no stone unturned. And so yes. I think that would probably mean that you're looking for those kind of characters, because there does drive more
Looking
uh
for what?
with those
So
kind of characters, for more, I guess, meat on the bone in
yeah,
terms of
yes,
those full lives.
in whatever genre.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know my list of films I've done. The Jane Campions and the
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Yeah, I can't think right now. The Lena Mullers and okay, a whole bunch of people. Always looking to examine this life I've been given to live, the time I have to live it in,
Yes, sir.
and it's
Absolutely.
limited.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, speaking of all the great directors you've worked with, I mean, you've worked with Martin Scorsese, Jane Campion, Ridley Scott, Paolo Sorrentino, Wes Anderson, Quentin Tarantino, on and on and on and on, right? You've worked with,
Ferrara.
yes, some of the great directors that we've ever seen produce cinema. And so I guess, what are the kind of things that you've learned over the years with working with those great directors, that you as an actor, you take a lesson or two? Doesn't have to be for every one of them, obviously, but one of them or two of them that maybe stuck with you, that you put in your toolbox and you use for future projects.
That's a good question. I've been fortunate to meet people of a like mind. All the names you named are people really of a like mind. The Jane Campions, the Scorseses, Tarantino's, Ferraras, and on and on. They're all people that have what should I say? I need a dictionary. That have a hunger to I'm thinking of Dante now and Virgil.
Mm-hmm.
They all have a hunger for that journey through the underworld to see if they can make it through it, and have a good life.
And I mean, they're able to get great performances out of you, and you're able to work with them. And you've worked with some of them, like Mr. Tarantino and Mr. Scorsese and Mr. Anderson multiple times. And it's just, and I'm assuming every time they offer you something, you just want to jump back in and work with them because of that familiarity, correct?
And the contrary of that is, every time they haven't offered me something I wanted, I have to kill them.
That's true, right? Yeah, I think that especially
next.
Exactly, right. No, because I think when a director works with a stable of actors, we kind of wonder, is that the next? Are they going to be just plugged in, right? Because it seems like that's the case.
If they consider me part of a stable, then consider me of a horse. I would like to kick some of them in the ass.
Yes, no, I don't.
Certain parts.
Yes, but no, I agree. But no, there's you work a lot with them over the time, and so it does feel, as an audience member myself, it feels weird when you're not there. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then when you are there, like even in something like when you're in Inglourious Bastards and you're just on the phone with Brad Pitt doing that, something like that, I go, that's there. And I figured that out, like within the first time I saw it, and I'll never forget that. But going with that, you've worked with all these great directors, but you've talked about Eton Rockaway. Is there a lesson that you learned in making this film with him, or maybe just the script, or maybe his direction, or something that you've learned that you'll carry like you have with them?
Yes, it's been my habit throughout my career to accept scripts anywhere someone approaches me, because there's a lot of talent out there in the world.
Yes, sir.
That doesn't have the opportunities I've been lucky enough to have and made for myself too. And Eton pursued me. He knew where I lived in New York, and he followed me around for a year or two. I mean it. Mm-hmm. With this script, and I was trying to avoid him, and then one day I read it, and which was not like me to turn somebody away. I said, well, I think it needs some rewrites here and there, because I found Meyer Lansky very interesting, and he did that, and he returned to me. And I said, the next year, it took about 3 years, really. And I said, I want to do it.
Well, yeah. And that's just also,
so I learned to stay on the path I always was on, because I came from nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, a colleague of mine for the Actors Studio gave me Reservoir Dogs. Not for her. Who knows where we might have wound up.
Yes,
so I never turned down someone's desire to show me something.
That's a note to everyone out there to just follow Harvey Keitel around for a while. Then I guess, right?
Okay.
Yeah. No, I would just yeah. The way I gotta find you first. No, but that's also great, because then that means it's not just about the big directors, it's also about the first timers, and it goes back to what you've been saying.
Hollywood is such an important place, such a great place, created by the immigrants that came to America, by the way. It does need to be destroyed and built over. It needs reform.
Mm-hmm.
And the reform I referred to are those young, great talents out there.
Mm-hmm.
Get the opportunity to show their script, show their talents,
mm-hmm.
in every aspect of making film and
Absolutely.
theater.
Mm-hmm.
Open the doors wider.
Mm-hmm.
Hire people that work for you who are interested in theater
mm-hmm.
and cinema.
Absolutely.
And literature.
Mm-hmm. No,
and
sure.
That would be the transformation Hollywood could use. Bertrand Tavernier, may rest in peace, he died last year, earlier this year. One of the great directors, by the way, we haven't mentioned that I worked with. He told me, Harvey, you want to find great scripts? Just go to the warehouses in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
They have tons of great scripts in there.
Mm-hmm.
People have never done and never seen.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's like the blacklists and all these other ones too, where just films and scripts sit there and it's untapped talent.
That's the kind of reform Hollywood needs. They need equal talent in those boardrooms, which I'm sitting in now, to cull the talent from the great pool of imaginative writers, directors, actors, designers we have out here in the country.
Yeah.
And from the immigrants that come into the country.
Absolutely. Well, I have one more question for you, Mr. Keitel. And you, like I said, you have an extensive historic career with so many wonderful performances. And so this is a little bit fun, but it's also a little bit of a challenge too. And in that, with that, if I were to present your filmography to someone and I have to give them, let's say, the Mount Rushmore, the 4 performances that Harvey Keitel, that were maybe your favorite characters or your favorite projects or your favorite interactions, what would those 4 projects be and why? Why would you choose those for someone that is a novice that wants to see a great at their job? What would those 4 films be?
Well, okay, I'll try to answer this.
I know it's hard. I know it's a hard question. I'm sorry.
I know, you little sneak, you. I don't want to diss any of these great directors I've worked with. No, in answering this question, I'm just pulling out some things from the great opportunities I've had. Reservoir Dogs, The Bad Lieutenant, The Piano.
Yeah.
Help me out here.
I mean, anything with Mr. Scorsese or Mr. Anderson? Or...
I mentioned Scorsese. Did you not?
Reservoir Dogs, Bad Lieutenant, The Piano. One more.
Mean Streets.
Mean Streets. That's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the thing. And that's what's so great about it is that one day it could be these 4, and then the next day it could be a totally different 4. It's right. And I don't think that they're set. This isn't a set question or try to get you. Good. It's not. It's so it changes. It evolves.
Thank you for saying that. And hearing you say that, I stirred my imagination to say to those directors' films I haven't mentioned, you do the same thing.
Yeah, no, we all do it. I mean, somebody asked me one time what my favorite film is of all time, and I just threw out the Godfather. You know what I mean? Because it's such an easy film to rewatch and everything. But then, days change, right?
You didn't say Mean Streets?
I didn't say Mean Streets, or I didn't say Singing in the Rain, or I didn't say The Red Shoes or anything like that. They're all the great black and white films, of the past. And it's so it changes over time. But what doesn't change.
I answer your question, and that's
Yeah, exactly. But what it doesn't change is the fact that you're great in this film. You've been great for so many years, and I appreciate your time. And please, everyone, go out there and see Lansky and see your great work. Thank you so much, sir, for sitting
Thank
down
you.
with us.
I enjoyed you, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much.